Hello and welcome to our podcast, episode number 38. A man's journey through time uncovers his past and changes his future. I am Timothy, and I am here with my old friend Thomas. Today, we are going to discuss a film called The Butterfly Effect. As always, spoilers ahead. The Butterfly Effect is a 2004 American science fiction thriller film about Evan Treborn, who discovers he can time travel through his journals. He uses this power to alter the past, hoping for a better future, but only makes things worse. In the end, he decides to leave his friends' lives alone, resulting in happier outcomes for everyone involved. To begin with, I didn't enjoy the film, even though thriller is one of my favorite genres. So, Tom, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, Tim, I have to say that I quite enjoyed it. As someone who generally appreciates science fiction thrillers with an interesting premise like time travel, this movie really caught my attention from start to finish. The Butterfly Effect offers a unique perspective on how our actions can have far-reaching consequences beyond what we initially imagine. However, I must admit that the film does present some moral dilemmas regarding interfering with past events for personal gain or trying to rectify wrongs committed against oneself or others in the past. Despite these ethical considerations, it's undeniable that Ashton Kutcher delivered an impressive performance as Evan Treborn, a character who goes through tremendous emotional turmoil throughout his journey across time. In terms of plot twists and turns, The Butterfly Effect did not disappoint either. The way the story unfolds reveals just how intricately connected each event in our lives is to every other moment that comes after it, a concept often referred to as the butterfly effect. Overall, I found this film thought-provoking and entertaining at the same time.
Well, I have to say that I disagree with you on this one, Tom. While the premise of time travel and its consequences is certainly interesting, I found the execution lacking. The plot twists felt forced and contrived rather than organic and thought-provoking. Additionally, as someone who generally prefers historical dramas or comedies over science fiction thrillers, I didn't find myself invested in any of the characters' stories or fates. Furthermore, the film seemed to rely too heavily on shock value for its emotional impact, rather than developing genuine empathy between viewer and character. It was difficult for me to connect with Evan Treborn as a protagonist due to his inconsistent motivations throughout his journey across time. On a more positive note, I did appreciate some of the themes explored in The Butterfly Effect, such as fate versus free will and the consequences of our actions on those around us. However, these themes could have been explored in a more nuanced and thoughtful manner without resorting to such extreme measures as time travel and alternate realities.
Well, Timothy, I can understand your perspective. While it's true that some of the plot twists might be seen as forced or contrived by certain viewers like yourself who aren't necessarily fans of science fiction thrillers, I believe they serve a purpose in driving home the film's central message about interfering with fate and the consequences that come with it. As for character development, while I agree that Evan Treborn's motivations are not always clear-cut throughout his journey across time, I think this adds to his overall complexity as a character who is struggling to come to terms with his past actions and their impact on others. In addition, I would argue that the butterfly effect does succeed in creating an atmosphere of suspense and tension due its unpredictable nature. It keeps you guessing about what will happen next, not only because of the time travel element, but also through its exploration of darker themes like child abuse, mental illness, and suicide, topics which are often avoided or glossed over in mainstream Hollywood films. Lastly, I'd like to point out that while some viewers may not appreciate the film's reliance on shock value for emotional impact, it does serve a purpose in grabbing the audience's attention and keeping them engaged with the story. Overall, Despite our differences in opinion about the butterfly effect's execution, I believe we can both agree that it raises thought-provoking questions about fate versus free will and the consequences of our actions, which make it a worthwhile discussion topic for this podcast episode.
That's true, Tom. I do appreciate that it brings up these thought-provoking questions and themes. So let's talk a bit about some interesting trivia related to the butterfly effect. Did you know that the original ending was quite different from what we see in the final cut? According to director Eric Bress, they shot an alternate ending where Evan finds himself back at his college dorm room after traveling through time one last time via a home movie. In this version of events, he wakes up surrounded by newspaper articles detailing all the good things that have happened in everyone's lives because he never interfered with their pasts, essentially showing that leaving things alone was always for the best. However, test audiences found this ending too depressing and confusing, so they decided to go with a more hopeful and straightforward conclusion where Evan burns his journals and walks away from his old life without looking back. Another interesting fact is that Ashton Kutcher actually went through extensive training for his role as Evan Treborn. He learned how to control his breathing and heart rate while meditating in order to better portray the character's dissociative episodes during time travel sequences. I think these behind-the-scenes details show just how much effort went into making the butterfly effect what it is today, despite its flaws or controversial themes.
Precisely right, Tim. It's fascinating to learn about the original ending and Ashton Kutcher's preparation for his role. These details really shed light on how much work went into bringing this film to life. And while I do agree with you that some aspects of the butterfly effect could have been executed better, I still find it to be an engaging and thought-provoking movie that raises important questions about fate versus free will and the consequences of our actions. It's certainly not a perfect film by any means, but it does manage to grab your attention and keep you invested in its story until the very end, which is more than I can say for some other movies out there. With that said, what do you think the takeaway message from the butterfly effect should be? Is it a cautionary tale against trying to change the past, or a reminder of how our actions can have far-reaching consequences that we might not always anticipate? Do you think Evan made the right decision by ultimately deciding to leave his friends' lives alone? Or was he just giving up on finding happiness for himself and others around him? Let's continue this discussion in the comments section below.
Well, Tom, I think the takeaway message from the butterfly effect is quite complex. On one hand, it serves as a cautionary tale against trying to change the past and interfere with fate, as Evan discovers that his actions only seem to lead to more problems rather than solving existing ones. However, on the other hand, it also highlights how our actions can have far-reaching consequences beyond what we initially anticipate. This duality is reflected in the various endings of the film. Both the original and final cuts show that leaving things alone might be for the best, but they do so in different ways, which emphasize these competing ideas. As for whether Evan made the right decision by ultimately deciding to leave his friends' lives alone, I think it's difficult to say definitively. On one hand, he does seem to find some measure of happiness and peace at the end of the film when he walks away from his old life without looking back. However, we also see that this decision comes at a great cost. He loses touch with his friends, including Kylie, who was once very close to him and ultimately ends up living an isolated existence as a result. So while I can appreciate the sentiment behind Evan's decision that sometimes it's better not to interfere with others' lives or destinies, I also think there's something to be said for trying to find common ground and understanding between people who have been through traumatic experiences together like they have. In terms of the script and direction, I must say that I found both aspects of the butterfly effect quite effective in conveying its themes and messages. The non-linear narrative structure mirrors Evan's dissociative state during his time travel episodes, adding an extra layer of complexity to the storytelling. Additionally, the use of flashbacks and flash forwards effectively builds suspense and tension throughout the film as we gradually piece together how different events are connected across time. As for the acting performances, I think everyone involved did an excellent job bringing their characters to life. However, it's clear that Ashton Kutcher's portrayal of Evan Treborn is the standout performance in this movie due to the emotional depth and range required by his character. In conclusion, while the butterfly effect has its flaws and may not appeal to everyone due to its genre or themes, I believe it remains an interesting conversation starter about fate versus free will and the consequences of our actions. What are your thoughts on these aspects of the film, Tom?
Well, Tim, I have to say that I agree with you on most of your points regarding the actors' performances in The Butterfly Effect. Ashton Kutcher certainly shines as Evan Treborn, capturing both his vulnerability and his determination to uncover the truth about his past actions. However, I also think that Amy Smart does an excellent job portraying Kaylee Miller, bringing depth and complexity to her character despite limited screen time in some versions of the film. Her performance is particularly poignant during emotional scenes, such as when she attempts suicide or when Evan discovers her addiction to drugs and prostitution. Additionally, I want to highlight Ethan Suplee's portrayal of Frank Wingate, a minor character who plays an important role in helping Evan piece together his past. His understated but effective performance adds another layer of realism to the film. As for the characters themselves, they are all deeply flawed and complex individuals struggling with various issues such as abuse, trauma, and mental illness. This complexity makes them relatable and sympathetic despite their sometimes questionable actions or decisions. For example, while Kylie's descent into drug addiction and prostitution may seem extreme, it's clear that she is searching for some form of escape from her troubled past and dysfunctional family life. Likewise, Evan's attempts to change his own fate by manipulating time travel show how desperate he is to find some sense of control over his chaotic existence. In terms of character development, I think the film does a good job showing how each character's actions and decisions reverberate throughout their lives and affect those around them. This interconnectedness serves as a reminder that our choices have consequences, both intended and unintended. Furthermore, it highlights the importance of understanding others' experiences and perspectives in order to avoid repeating past mistakes or causing further harm. Overall, despite some criticisms regarding plot contrivances or reliance on shock value for emotional impact, The Butterfly Effect manages to deliver a compelling narrative with well-developed characters grappling with real-world issues such as abuse and mental illness. Its exploration of complex themes like fate versus free will makes it an engaging conversation starter for podcasts like ours. What are your thoughts on the character development in The Butterfly Effect, Timothy?
Well, Tom, I think you've made some excellent points regarding the character development in The Butterfly Effect. It's clear that each character is struggling with their own demons and trying to find some sense of control or stability in their lives. However, as we've seen through Evan's experiences with time travel, even the smallest actions can have far-reaching consequences. This interconnectedness between characters and their story serves as a reminder that our lives are not isolated events, but rather part of a larger tapestry woven together by our choices and actions. Speaking of other films or TV series that were influenced by the Butterfly Effect, I'd like to bring up the Netflix show called Dark. While it may seem like a departure from the science fiction heavy themes of the Butterfly Effect, both shows share a common thread in their exploration of time travel and its consequences. In Dark, the protagonist, Jonas Conwald, discovers a hidden cave beneath his hometown where he finds an old time machine that appears to be responsible for several mysterious disappearances over the years. As Jonas delves deeper into the town's secrets and tries to unravel the truth about the time travel device, he too faces personal struggles and consequences as a result of his actions. Similarly, another TV series that shares some thematic similarities with the butterfly effect is Timeless. In this show, a group of historians, including Luke Spencer from General Hospital, are recruited to stop a mysterious organization called Rittenhouse that's attempting to alter history for their own gain. Throughout the series, the team navigates various time periods in American history while trying to save the timeline and prevent Rittenhouse from changing the course of human events. Both Dark and Timeless demonstrate how time travel narratives can be used as a vehicle for exploring complex themes such as fate versus free will, morality, and the consequences of our actions. These shows also emphasize the importance of understanding history and learning from past mistakes in order to avoid repeating them or causing further harm. It's interesting to see how the butterfly effect has influenced subsequent works within this genre by encouraging storytellers to delve deeper into these thought-provoking topics while also delivering an engaging and emotionally resonant viewing experience for audiences. What are your thoughts on other media that have been inspired by the butterfly effect, Tom? Are there any specific shows or films that you think have done a particularly good job expanding upon these themes and concepts introduced in the movie?
Well, Timothy, I have to say that there are indeed several TV shows and movies that have been inspired by the butterfly effect's exploration of time travel and its consequences. One such example is the Japanese anime series Steins Gate, which follows a group of scientists who invent a device called the mail that allows them to send emails to their past selves. However, as they soon discover, altering the past can have disastrous effects on the present and future. The show's complex narrative structure and well-developed characters make it a standout example of how time travel stories can be used to explore deep philosophical questions about causality, free will, and the nature of reality. Another noteworthy entry in this genre is the 2014 film Predestination, which is based on a short story by Robert A. Heinlein. Similar to the butterfly effect, Predestination deals with themes of time travel and its impact on personal identity and fate. Starring Ethan Hawke and Sarah Snook, the movie presents a thought-provoking take on the butterfly effect concept that will leave viewers questioning their own notions of destiny and choice. In conclusion, the butterfly effect has certainly left its mark on popular culture by inspiring numerous works in various media that explore similar themes and concepts. Its exploration of complex characters grappling with fate versus free will makes it a compelling story that continues to resonate with audiences today. As for our final thoughts, I think we can both agree that The Butterfly Effect is an engaging and thought-provoking film that raises important questions about the consequences of our actions and the nature of time itself. It's a movie that will leave viewers pondering its implications long after the credits roll. So, thank you for joining us on this podcast discussion about The Butterfly Effect. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts and comments below. Until next time, farewell from Timothy and Tom.